Secretary.
The birds will be meeting are flying on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri, and we'd like to acknowledge the connection of the First Nations people to this land, as it is a connection that has extended over many thousands of years. Hello, I'm Sean.
And I'm Gabby. Australia is known by many people as the land of parrots. It's pretty easy to see why. We're very lucky here. We have 56 different species of parrots, and they have adapted to live in a wide range of places, from lush rainforests to sparse woodlands, and even the dry heart of the desert. So we're just being joined right now by two red-tailed black cockatoos. On my right hand side, I have our male pink jay, and Stu will be there's Ivory coming over. You see they look a little bit different from each other. DJ here, he is black glossy all over, and when he flies off, have a look at his tail. The band on his tail is fully red. The females, they have yellow freckles all over their body, and when Ivory flies off him a little bit, have a look at her tail band. It's all orange and red, orange and yellow, apart from the rest. It's more like sunset hues. So big birds like red-tailed black cockatoos rely on large territories, very old trees that used to be at least 200 years old to have naturally formed hollows that are big enough for them to be able to build their nests and raise their young. These birds are also separated in deforestation, and they are considered species here in Victoria.
So it's probably no surprise to learn that we do a lot of training with our birds here at this bird.
Have you heard his word?
What you might know, what you might not know rather, is just how important training is to zookeepers everywhere. We can use training for enrichment and exercise, but the reason for training that I'd like to talk about today is training to involve animals in their own welfare and involving them in their own medical care as well. When you can involve an animal in their own medical care, you can have an increased welfare outcome for those animals just by giving them the choice to say yes or no and have control over certain aspects of their life. Now, most of the animals that you're seeing here today at the sanctuary have been born either here at Healesville Sanctuary, another Zoo Victoria property, or another institution around Australia. But there are a small number that have come through our wildlife hospital and they've been unable to be released. Now the goal for any wildlife that comes through the hospital is always to release it back into the wild, but there are certain circumstances where that animal's best interest might be to stay with us. And the next bird in our presentation is an example of one of those animals. It's a long-billed corella. This is Fergie, and even though I called her a long-billed corella, Fergie here has an extra long bill. She came to us 13 years ago with a bill about nearly double the length that it is now, and that is actually so long it stops her from being able to feed herself in the wild. So she was given a clean bill of health to be able to live with us and manage her condition, but she's unable to be released back into the wild. And so working with her and building her trust, training is a really important tool to increasing her welfare. We can use training to have a look at certain parts of her body and get her involved in the medical. Asked to have a look at her wings. When asking her to have a look at her wings can show us the feather condition to see whether she's fit for flying. It can also show us her joint health in her wings and make sure that there's no issues, no reason why she wouldn't want to fly. Let's see that again. But that's only some of the bird. A really easy thing also is just to ask her to turn around. Just like that. And we can have a look at the feather condition over the whole bird, but more importantly, have a look at that joint health in her legs and feet. But foot health is really important for parrots as well. Parrots are susceptible to a number of illnesses in their feet, and having a look at the feet of a parrot that doesn't want you to have a look at their feet can be quite a difficult endeavour. So training can be used to ask birdies to show us, can I see your left foot? No, that's your right foot. Good. You know left and right better than I do. What about your left foot? Perfect. Fantastic. So you can see we can train these behaviours into our birds. And even though I may not know left or right, she certainly does, and we're able to check over her foot health really, really effectively. Natural behaviours are also really important for these birds, and this is something we saw Fergie doing, and we thought that's a really good indicator, again, of all of that core strength and her joint health. This is a natural behaviour that we saw her doing in her habitat, and we decided to capture that behaviour and train it on cue like this, by presenting the stick. Now it is a very, very cute thing. It looks like a trick. It's a natural behaviour where these birds would sit up in the trees and hang upside down to access different foods that they couldn't usually reach, but also in rain showers where they can hang upside down and allow the water to access different parts of her body. But the first step for any training session is to gain her consent to participating in that training session. So we've trained what's called consent behaviour. Something that's so easy that when we're asking her to do it, 99 times out of 100 she will choose to do it. And if she doesn't, it means she doesn't want to do any training, and that's absolutely fine. The reason doesn't matter. If she's saying yes or no, that's the only important thing. And that behaviour of consent is just stepping up. So it's a really easy thing. She knows how to step up 99 times out of 100. She will choose to step up. And if she ever doesn't, that's absolutely fine. That's her saying, no thank you, I don't want to do this right now. And we can say, that's absolutely fine. We can come back later. We can just come back when you're good and ready. It's kind of like if your boss called you up in the morning and said, hey Sean, do you want to come into work? You know what you could say? Not today. And then your boss just goes, no worries, you let me know when you're good and ready. It might be tomorrow, it might not be. But there's no pay docking, there's no repercussions. She can just come to work when she's good and ready. That's the way it should be. From there we can work from the hand to flights to the hand, and that's how a lot of the routines out here in the Spirits in the Sky presentation start, with small flights to the hand that can get bigger and bigger and bigger. In fact, every bird that you're seeing here today has given a consent behaviour to participating in the presentation. So that's why every presentation is a little bit different, depending on which birds decide that they would like to participate or decide that they would like to stay home. And there's a number of different reasons. Could be the weather, could be anything. It doesn't matter why, as long as it's their choice to come out here. So you never know which birds you're going to see in the Spirits of the Sky presentation, and that's the way it should be. So Fergie has done a fantastic job. That's Fergie along with Corella. She's going to head off. Well done, Fergie. So I did mention her beak. She actually is trained to file her own beak down in her own time on her terms. It's amazing.
So a lot of real trailers like Fergie are normally found in large flocks down on the ground, and they use their long beaks to dig up the food. The next bird we're about to meet very rarely comes to the ground. He's actually from far north Queensland and some of the major islands of the Pacific. When you choose to join us today, have a look at his beautiful colours. He's a bird that is a muscle in camouflage. Have a look at his beautiful green, the blue on the tip of his wings. And if you're lucky enough to look at these, you've got a few birds down there as well. Ladies are very like spirit. So Les is a very lucky spirit. So I say he's a master in camouflage. When he does his wings tucked like this, he's pretty much invisible in the top of the rainforest in Queensland. That's very important for him though, because he has a really big job. And he does have some special colours, like the red in his wings. So these colours are there because the female Platyspheris live in the bottom of the forest, and they need to be able to spot the males at the top. So male Platyspheris spend a bunch of time in the canopy of the tree because they have a big job that is collecting food. But he's just not collecting food by himself. He's collecting and delivering food to 3 to 4 different females at a time every day. And the female Platyspheris, they look different. Because they're camouflaged in the bottom of the forest, they are actually red and blue. So they're very invisible in the shadows. And the females are also receiving food from 3 to 4 different males at a time every single day. And in a lot of the Platyspheris, it's not the brightest, the biggest male they're going to get in the female's heart, but the one actually brings the best snack. That's a pretty good deal. So now we're about to leave the world of colourful ferrets, and it's a bird that's rocking a more neutral colour palette. And a bird that also camouflage, but is in different environments instead of rainforest camouflage in the woodlands. So what you can try to have a guess what colour she is. Some of you might be able to spot her.
So this, on the fence there, is Millie, and Millie is a barking owl. You can see she's sitting up against those wooden tones. We're going to give her the opportunity to come out if she'd like to. And she's camouflaging really, really well against the brush fence behind me. I'm going to see if she does want to choose to come out. If she does, have a look at her wooden colours. Would you like to step up? There we go. There we go. So you can see here a bit of a better look at her. Millie the barking owl as she flies past. She's built so that she can sit lower down in the forest compared to these such as parents that are up in the tops of those rainforest canopies. This bird stays a little bit lower down, nice and close to the wooden tree trunks, where they're using those colours to blend in or camouflage away from predators and prey as well. And you can see she does have two very big, beautiful yellow eyes on the front of her face there. That's what she uses to find her food. Owls like Millie have incredible eyesight. And we'll see if she wants to fly. If she doesn't, we can just keep her on the globe today. That's absolutely fine. You can see she's got, as I said, big, beautiful yellow eyes, amazing eyesight, but they have given up their ability to see in colour. They can see only in black and white, but they can see in incredible detail and distance with a focus on movement in the forest. The movement they're looking for is their prey. So for a bird like Millie, that's things like rodents, such as rats, mice. That's her favourite spot in the arena, by the way. Rats, mice, possums, gliders, even other birds are on the menu for a barking owl. Now you can hear that little chirping sound when she's coming up to our glove there. That's a bit of a happy noise for a barking owl. That's the noise she's making when she's getting some of her favourite food. If she was in hunting mode, she would be completely silent. And hopefully she chooses to fly today. If she does, have a listen to that sound when she does come into land. We'll see if we can get a good example of that here. There we go. There's that sound. So that's a bit of a happy noise. If she was hunting, she would be completely silent, but there is another sound that's probably not a surprise to learn that they make, given that they're called a barking owl. It's not an ironic name. They do actually have a call that sounds just like a small dog barking, and that's mostly during the breeding season, males having a lower note in that duet. There is one more sound. At what stage does it stop becoming a flight and start becoming a step? There is another sound they make which is a little bit more unexpected, and that's the sound they make when they're threatened. If something's threatening either Millie or the nest, they scream. And it's not a very bird-like sounding scream, which you can imagine an owl making. It's actually a very human-sounding scream that sounds like something terrible is happening to somebody nearby. And it's actually resulted in a number of calls to the police, and they've arrived when the police have come only to find a pair of barking owls in paddocks of the farmers that have made those phone calls to the police. Hearing screams coming from all sorts of directions on their property. I think you'll agree. She's done a pretty good job out here. That was Millie the barking owl. I don't know if you saw, but while everyone was lining up before the gates opened, we actually had two giant eagles perched up in the trees above the arena. So I'm glad that Millie has chosen to come out, and that's a really good way of showing that consent, is to say, I'm happy to come out, I would just like to stay on your glove, and that's absolutely fine. These birds are built to stay put when they know that their predators are around, and that was exactly what Millie was doing. She's saying, I'd like to stay, I'm happy to come out, that's my choice, I also don't want to fly. And we can adjust what we're doing to suit what she wants to do. So, before we move on to our final bird and one of our diurnal raptors, I did just want to take the focus away from us here on the lawn and put it back onto everyone sitting here and standing here today. And simply just say thank you very much for joining our Zoos Victoria family, even if it is just for today. Because just by visiting us here at Healesville Sanctuary, you're enabling us to help save some of the world's most endangered species. Because we do a lot of work here to save some incredibly endangered species here at Zoos Victoria. In fact, there's 27 different species that we're working to save, and we wouldn't be able to do any of that without the vital support of every one of you here today just visiting a place like us. Some of the animals we're working with are two of the most endangered mammal species, so Tasmanian devils and red-beaked possums, but also two of the world's most endangered bird species, the orange-bellied parrot and the helmeted carnivore. We wouldn't be able to do any of that vital conservation work without every one of you here today. In particular, we'd like to acknowledge the ongoing support of our Zoos Victoria members. We'd just like to say, with the help of Calista, our self-addressed community, thank you very, very much for visiting us here today. Thank you. So as I said, we are now hoping to move back into the world of our raptors, and the one we're about to meet is a daytime raptor. It's Australia's third largest raptor. It's brought to you by the B. It's called a black-breasted buzzard. To make that hard for me, this black-breasted buzzard's name is Bernice, the black-breasted buzzard. So I'm going to avoid saying that as much as possible. But when she chooses to come out here, what I'd like you to have a look at is the size of her wings compared to the size of her body. She's got a pretty big body, but her wings are even bigger because she's an example of what we call a broad-winged raptor, which are birds, raptors that are made to stay up, soaring high above in the skies for hours and hours on end, exhibiting little to no energy. Here she is. Have a look at those very large, very beautiful wings. These birds are built to stay up, soaring around, looking down for food for hours and hours. These birds are found in an area where there's not that much food to go around, so they've got to be able to stay up looking for food for hours at a time. And they can do that just by holding their wings out, and they don't burn any energy at all. Now we're going to keep her down a little bit lower today because there are some behaviours that we'd like to show you that these birds have, because unusually these birds are very, very comfortable down here on the ground. And that is quite unusual for our daytime raptors. As you'll see, she has no problem moving around on the ground. She's pretty cute down here on the ground. I think you'll agree. But it's really important that they're comfortable on the ground because they do a lot of hunting down on the ground as well. And so they've got a habit of raiding nests. These birds are known as nest robbers for some of Australia's ground nesting species. So that's animals like swans, rollers, bustards, and Australia's largest bird. It's probably no surprise, you missed it, there we go. It's no surprise to know that the emu, they lay a very, very big egg. And actually the emu egg is too big, too strong for a black-breasted buzzard like Bernice to get into on their own. So they need to employ the help of each other. And I just happen to have a 3D printed model of an emu egg today, and we're going to see what they need to get into those eggs. So we're going to send her over there. I'm going to get her my egg, and the tool that she needs, a single rock. See what happens when we give a rock to a black-breasted buzzard and give them an egg as well. She'll line it up, she'll smash it down, it won't quite work the first time, she'll try again, she'll get it. Fantastic. Here we go. Here we go. And she can take the egg with her. So that is an extraordinary skill to have. And it's not something we've had to teach you, it's not a trick. It's actually a natural adapted skill or an instinct. And it's something that all black-breasted buzzards, from the moment they hatch out of their own egg, they know how to do it. Because an egg of that size is up to 4 or even 5 days worth of food. And so it's really important that they know that skill. They don't always get it the first time. As you saw, she took a couple of goes. When they're new at it, they take even more, but it is worth getting into because of how much food is inside. In fact, there's only one other raptor in the world that has the same behaviour, and they're found all the way over in Africa. The Egyptian vulture breaks into ostrich eggs in the same way. Now, to see a black-breasted buzzard here in Australia, you need to travel more than 1,000 kilometres north, and they're not around this area at all. So I think we're pretty lucky to be able to meet Bernice, and we do hope you enjoyed meeting Bernice and all of the other spirit fish guys here today.
Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon here at Healesville Sanctuary.
Thank you.
Thank you.